Oh gosh.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So now we're just waiting on him.
He says he's in. Did you join that one though, Ben? Or did you just, or you did join?
Yeah, it says you joined us.
No, I can't.
Do you want me to exit it and see?
Oh, yeah, that's me when you said that.
I'll see who it is.
You want to be that one?
It says participants one. There's nobody. There we go. Admit. Hit admit up there in blue.
Working?
Yes, here it comes.
There you are.
Here you are.
Sweet, here to the volume button.
Good morning, Donnie Rains and team.
We're here.
Morning.
We don't use Zoom that much, so we always have complications when we do.
Wait, you have me on a big screen?
Yeah, you're the big giant head.
Cool. All right. All right, so now we have to figure out if I can share my, if you can give me permission to share the screen.
Oh.
Sorry about that. Is that all we have to do?
And then security.
Technology. Yeah, I forget where it is actually.
Yeah.
Do I hit that?
No, he's already got it.
Oh.
Do I have it?
Yeah, you should.
Yes, I do. All right. Now I have to figure out from my end how to do it. All right, we'll figure this out. We'll get there. Let's see if this works. All right. You should be looking at something that says, welcome, we'll be starting in just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Good. So we're already here, so we'll skip that part. All right, let me make sure I can get these slides to move. All right, good. Let me skip that too. All right, good. Thank you, Donnie and Jen. Thank you for having me here this morning. This is cool. The purpose of this is really to share an idea that I came up with, actually that hit me several years ago, about how to train your brain so you can get more of what you want, less of what you don't want on a more consistent basis. So, Donnie, do you have any words that you want? Do you have anything you want to use as in terms of introduction or opening comments or anything like that?
No, actually talked you up to all these guys, so everybody's aware of you and ready to roll.
All right. So my credibility has been established. All I have to do now is lose it.
That's right.
Basically. All right. All right, cool. All right, so let me give you guys just a real quick history on me so you know who I am, what I'm talking about here. Since 2002, I've had a private practice in Scottsdale, Arizona, and surrounding areas, working with motivated clients to help them get past the unconscious blocks that hold them back so they can do more with less effort and greater consistency. Most of this is based in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. You folks probably know NLP if you know about it. Tony Robbins is probably one of the most well-known people out there when it comes to NLP. And what we do in transformational coaching is actually take that to a whole deeper level. So since 2018, I've been with MAPS as a coach. I'm in the transformational coaching part of MAPS. And what that means very simply is we in the transformational coaching little cadre of MAPS work more with mindset than with the actual skills, the actual tactics of buying, selling, investing in real estate. We're more about what's happening between your ears and attitude and mindset and getting that focus, and a little bit less about the numbers. Where productivity coaching, it's sort of inverses. So the basic thinking here is that you have unconscious programming that's affecting how you think about something. And I'd like you all just to take a moment and consider this concept. How you think about something will affect how you feel about something. And then, positive or negative or neutral. If you have negative feelings about something, would it be fair to say that the actions that you're going to take are going to be influenced by those negative feelings? If you're feeling fear or anger or whatever it might be, you're going to have a particular set of actions. If you're feeling gratitude and happy and positive and hey, I got this kind of feeling in a sales situation, you're going to have again, a different set of actions that are going to be more productive. All right. So is that kind of fair to say? It's kind of weird here. I'm kind of looking at it. And when it comes up on my screen, you guys are about this big over here. So I'll just So feel free to chime in and, you know, yell and scream or raise your hand or say, hey, I have a question as we go through this thing, okay? Because I can't really keep my eyes on you. The screen is way too small. All right. So you have programming, you have thoughts, you have feelings, you have actions, and it doesn't take a big leap to understand that those actions are going to produce results. So if we can change the thinking about things, we're going to get a different feeling, which means we're going to get different actions, which means we're going to get different results. So NLP is more about getting things at the root cause, at the thinking part, so that everything else follows. All right, because as a sales guy, and I've been in the world of sales since '77, so I get what 100% commission sales is all about. If you have some sort of unconscious fear of the phone or hesitation about calling people because somebody hung up on you and you create this story in your head, a sales manager coming along says, just pick up the phone and make more calls. I think you'll agree doesn't work. Okay, because the thing starts to weigh about 400 pounds every time you pick it up then. So rather than going after the symptom and trying to muscle through it, NLP and this process, POET, is more about let's change the thinking that's behind the whole deal. When we change the thinking, everything else becomes much easier, right? It's very much in tune with Gary Keller's one thing. You know, what's the one thing we can change so that everything else becomes easier? Thinking. Make sense? So that's kind of what POET is all about. All right. So the model here, just a little bit of theory, is you've all seen this iceberg, I'm sure, right? The conscious part of your mind is that part of the iceberg above the surface. The unconscious part of your mind is everything else that's happening. Unconscious is running your emotions. Unconscious is keeping your body alive. The unconscious is doing everything else. It's far, far bigger than your conscious mind. So by the way, I use the word unconscious and subconscious kind of interchangeably. So forgive me if I switch them up, it means the same thing, right? It's that deeper part of you that you're not aware of right now. All right. Now, what's going to be a little bit, I guess, a little bit tough about this presentation, folks, is the interaction part. So what I'd like to do is go through this in bites and then stop and see if you have any questions on where we are, okay? And if you do, raise them. If I'm going to answer it later, I'm going to ask you to hold on to it. If it's pertinent to what we just covered and you need a little bit more clarification, just yell out, I'll stop, and I want to be able to field your questions. I really don't want to have to talk straight at you for 45 minutes. So if this was a classroom, I'd be getting a lot more interaction, but Zoom is, I think we'll all agree, it's a little bit weird. Is that fair? Can you guys do that for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Such enthusiasm in the room. All right, cool. I like that. All right, so I got my coffee. I don't know about y'all. All right, so this is the NLP model of the world, okay? When we talk about the unconscious mind, something comes in over here as an external event. It could be something that you see, hear, feel, taste, whatever it might be. Usually it's something that somebody says. And we have all these filters in our mind, okay? I don't want to get into all the details here, but you know, the filter is based on, well, who is this person? What's my experience with them? What memories do I have of them? What programs am I running? What are my attitudes around this event? We form this meaning. The internal representation is the meaning that we give the event. And the meaning that we give the event is very much affected by how we feel at the time, okay? Have you ever been in a situation where you're feeling bad, you're sick, all right? Maybe you got the flu or something like that. Would it be fair to say how you view the world is different when you're feeling sick than it is when you're feeling really healthy and strong? Okay, so your state has an effect on your internal representation. Your physiology has an effect on your internal representation. If you just got a good workout in, if you're sitting up straight, if you're wide awake, if your back is straight, if your shoulders are back, or if you're all slumped over and feeling weak, that's going to have an effect. So all these things play back and forth to create this representation that you have, which affects your behavior, okay? So here's the thinking, the feelings, and the action, all happening like that at a very, very rapid rate inside your mind. And I know you've been in a situation where something has come out of your mouth or you've said something, and the next thought is, why the hell did I just do that? Okay, because it happens unconsciously and happens really, really quickly. The POET model is designed to affect this in a more positive way. So here's what's happening. You're going through your day. Okay, I'm going to use the classic example that I put in the book. By the way, POET is a process that hit me several years ago. And Donnie and I talked about this last week when we had our call. And what happened with it was I was going through, I was in my car, something came over the radio. You guys will all get access to the book, so you'll get the whole story. But I found my mood just going right down the tubes, right? So the classic story is the classic example. You're going through your day, you were in high school, right? And you had a relationship that you were in and you were deeply in love. I mean, this is the person, everything was perfect. You're 17 years old, it's all roses. And then you break up and you're feeling pretty good, but somewhere along the day, your song comes on the radio. What happens to your mood? Right? Right down the tubes. Or you drive by our restaurant or our movie and boom, you find yourself going from here, from feeling good, all the way down into the pits. Can we agree that that slide happens really, really quickly? Yep. All had it. Current day, you're feeling good, all right? You wake up in the morning, things are good. You got pendings, you got a new listing application, you know, a call that you're going on, you got, you know, everything is happening. And then a deal goes south, like first thing in the morning, a client calls you and the deal starts to go south. Bing, and you're here, right? And it happens like that. So POET is a process that actually hit me. And what I did was sit back and reverse engineered the emotional roller coaster that I went through. And then I took a look at this and I said, this is really interesting. And I codified it. And then I called a few of my old clients and I said, hey, I got something I want you guys to try. And I sat them down and I talked them through what I had discovered in a really rough version. And I said, just try this thing. Try this thing out for a few days. Let me know what happens. And the feedback came back really, really positive. So based on that feedback and based on my understanding and using myself more, I tightened up the process. Then I started teaching it to all my clients, my private practice. And somebody in there said, hey, you ought to run a workshop on this. This is really good stuff. So I thought, cool, I'll run a workshop, which was kind of nice because now I'm getting paid more, you know, to actually share this. And I could influence more people. So I started running workshops on it in the Phoenix Metro Scottsdale area. Then what happened was somebody said, you ought to write a book. So I said, okay, that seems like a good idea. So I sat down one day and I wrote a book. Okay, so I told Donnie, don't be real impressed. All I did here was I took the workshop and I put it between covers. All right. So this is what I know about this process, but I really want to stress it's not something that I created as much as something I reverse engineered because it happened to me. And I think that's the profound part of this whole deal, which is really, really kind of neat. To this day, I still get amazing feedback on the entire process because I teach it to almost all my MAPS clients. I still have private clients that I work with, and everybody learns POET because it works. So it's all about changing this slide and going down into the pits. With me so far?
Yep.
Okay. So here's what happens. Most people, when they find themselves going down the pits, something happens. These are the kinds of questions that they ask. Why is this happening now? What did I do to deserve this? What always happened? My mother was great at this. She was brilliant at this. Finish this statement. See if this is familiar to you. I need this like I need anybody? Hole in the head, right? Hole in the head. You've heard, how many of you have heard that? I need this like I need a hole in the head. What a ridiculous expression. This was my mother. So maybe now you'll understand how I came to create this thing. My mother said, I need this like I need 10 holes in the head. 10, not 1, 10, overachiever, okay? So, but it's common that when something negative happens, we ask these kinds of questions. And if you stand back and you look at these questions, this is a really rough way to talk to yourself, isn't it? Especially this one. What's wrong with me? Whoops, sorry about that. What's wrong with me? Why am I so stupid? Why did this happen again? When am I going to learn? This is a really, really tough, brutal way to talk to yourself. The problem is when you talk to yourself with questions like this, you're training your mind to find more of those events. You guys are all in KW. You've probably heard of the RAS, the RAS, the reticular activating system. If you've taken BOLD, you know this. Kind of show of hands. Are you familiar with the RAS, the reticular activating system? Okay. I'll give you the simple version. And this is the part of your brain, essentially, that takes things that are unknown and unfamiliar and makes them known and familiar. Two classic examples. You finally get around to buying a new car. Okay, you've had your eye on this car for a while. You finally take your old car into the dealership. You get the keys to the new car. You're driving off the lot with your new car. What do you see everywhere you drive? All over the roads.
The same car.
The same car, right? Same color, same wheel coverings. The person behind the wheel even looks like you a little bit, right? Isn't that weird? Has that happened to you? Have you had that experience? Right? Is it some sort of weird conspiracy? People are on the phone saying, yeah, he's going to pick up the car. It doesn't happen. Those cars are driving by you all the time. But because it was unknown and unfamiliar, your brain did not recognize it. All the data that comes past us in a particular moment, we're only be able to tune into a very, very small portion of that. The RAS is what makes it known and familiar. When you bought that car, now it was yours. So you see it everywhere. The favorite example of this, I had a client several years ago who understood this. She went on, I think, a 2-week vacation with her husband. She came back about a week later. And suddenly, after she came back from her vacation, she started noticing pregnant women everywhere she went. Now, here's where it really gets fascinating. Can we agree that when a woman gets pregnant, it is not an almost or close to, it is either pregnant or it's not? It is a flip of the switch. Fair? Okay. Can we also agree at that moment, her unconscious mind, her body now knows, her body knows that she is pregnant. Her brain knows that she is pregnant. Does she know the moment of conception that she's pregnant? No. But the RAS knows. So she started seeing pregnant women everywhere she went, and she goes, uh-oh, goes to a CVS, gets the early pregnancy test. Sure enough, she's pregnant. So if we can train, think about this for a moment. If you can train that part of your mind, which is so powerful, to get more of what you want and less of what you don't, to see more of opportunities and fewer of obstacles, to see more of gratitude and less of fear, would that be something that you'd be interested in learning? Right? POET is a 4-step process to help you do that. There's lots of them out there. This is just one more way of doing it because it goes really, really deep. And it works because it's the way our mind works. Okay, so let me stop here for a second before I get into the process, because that's just a little bit of general theory, kind of a 30,000-foot overview of mind and connection. Does anybody have any questions at this point so far? How are we doing? Is this pace okay? Is my volume okay and everything good? Okay. Donnie, can you make sure too that everybody gets that PDF link so they can get a copy of the book? All right, cool. All right, cool. Thank you, sir. All right, so here we go. Or if you want to buy it on Amazon, feel free, you know? All right. Here's the process. Whoops, wait a second. I forgot. There's one more general observation here. The bottom line is, are you at cause or are you effect in your world? When I pulled up the slide deck, because I've been presenting this for a while, I thought it was kind of funny because I chose the dominoes and sure enough, you know, there it is. So I just don't, for me, I thought it was cool, you know. Are you at cause? Are you in control? Or are you at the effect of what's happening in your world? Okay. I think we can agree also what's happening in here is what's going to determine whether you're at cause or effect. How many of you have met people that regardless of what's happening around them, they just seem calm, cool, and steady? And other people, the slightest little thing, and they're in drama. Does anybody in this room have drama friends?
It's me.
Right?
All right.
Right? Every time you talk to them, right? Something is happening. Well, not, you know, an event is an event. What's the meaning that we give it? That's the difference on how you're going to affect. Are you at cause? Are you in control? You're responsible for your emotions? Are you at effect? Are you reactionary and making and impulsive and making excuses? So again, one more tool really on how to get there. So here's POET. Pause, observe, examine and engage, and thank. I'm going to go through each of the steps, okay? The P of POET is pause. Go back to that original slide where we're going down the tubes, okay? What we want to do is find something that brings awareness to the fact that something in your attitude has changed. Here's the secret sauce, folks. If we are not aware, can we have any effect on what's happening? Right? So awareness is the first crucial step. If you know that your mood is starting to slip, if you're aware that you've gone from here to here attitudinally, only through awareness can you affect change. Has to be there. Most of the time, people are aware when they're all the way down in the bottom of the pits and they're feeling really, really crappy, or somebody points it out to them. Okay, get out there, get out of there, get out of the rut, whatever it might be. So awareness is key. And all we're looking for here is something that you can say to yourself so that you become aware. And it doesn't have to be big. There's 5 examples on the page right there. Wait, hold on, stop. Whoa, for me, it's, just H-U-H, That's what works for me. So I know that if I say that to myself, that's like the little trigger, that's the cue that says, all right, I got it. Something's going on here. Let me be aware before I can do anything else. Very simple. Now, other methodologies have all kinds of different things. Some people have the rubber band on their wrist and you snap the rubber band, okay? Some people have advocated you stand up and you clap your hands. I don't know. If you've got to take an action to be aware that's going to embarrass you in the crowd, isn't it just going to bring on more problems, right? It'd be kind of hard to be sitting in a room having a negative thought and standing up, clapping your hands, and then sitting back down again. People are going to look at you like, okay, go to Remax, get out of here. So I believe that all this stuff that's happening between your ears should stay between your ears. So if we're going to talk to ourselves anyway, let's start to control the language. Wait, stop, hold on, whoa, whatever it is, as long as it's fast, as in it's short, and you can do it consistently, that's what matters. That's the P, this is the easy step. The O of POET is observe. What we want to do now is make sure that we are aware that we're starting to slide, that there's an attitudinal shift. By the way, I'm going to talk to you guys about this from the negative. Then I'm going to talk to you about how to make it positive, and I'll also talk to you about how to do it if there's a third party going on who's acting weird. So there's all kinds of applications to the same 4-step process. So the observe portion of POET is 5 words. How do I do this? 5 words. Now, here's why these words are important. Or, by the way, you can see it on the screen. How do I do that? Okay, this or that. Let me go to the last word on here, the this or the that. For POET to work effectively, I haven't found a substitute for these 5 words, for this very important question. And I think once I explain to you why it's these words, you'll understand why it's important and it needs to be done this way. First word on the last word in the sentence, the this or that. Think about it this way. Nothing happens without the involvement of your brain. Is that fair? I can't be speaking to you, you can't be listening, can't be taking notes. Everything that's happening with you and with me, with us as human beings while we're alive, is a result of activity that takes place in our brain. When somebody starts to slip down the tubes, slip down into the pits, think back on your own experience. Have you found that a lot of times you wind up really giving that feeling a lot of language? Why do I feel like just going home? Why is this always happening to me? I feel like crap. I just want to go home right now. I think I'm going to cancel all my appointments. I'm going to call in sick. I'm just going to go home. I'm going to turn on Oprah and eat ice cream, right? The more language you give it, can we agree? The more language you give it, the more neurological connections you're making in your brain, because to give it language to describe the feeling, you have to be using your brain, and more neurons are connecting to form that language and create that picture. Does that make sense to you? The more words we give it, the more neural connections we're making. You got it? Does that make sense? Okay. Again, you guys are about this big on my screen. So I wonder if there's a way to make you guys bigger. Let me see. Can I do this? Is that? No, that doesn't do anything. That doesn't do anything. That makes it worse. Where'd you go? Oh, there we are. Okay. No, just really little. Okay. So what I'm suggesting then, instead of giving it a lot of language, because you're already in the feeling, just call it this. How do I do this? What's the this? The feeling. You don't need any more. You're already in it. This, just one word, very few neurological connections. The reason I put that in there is because most of my business in private practice has been dealing with salespeople, and salespeople never like having just one way to do things. They always want an option, so there's your option. Okay, you can also call it that. How do I do that? Doesn't matter. It's just one word. Very short, very concise. With me so far? You may not.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. First word in the question. How do I do this? Now, let me do something here. Let me go back to this. Look at these questions that most people ask themselves. Why? Why? What did I do to deserve this? When will I learn? Or the old favorite, what the is happening, right? Compare those questions to, how do I do this? Which one is simpler? Which one is more direct? Now, this is the word that matters. How? Why questions you? Why gets into judgment? Why is a deeply emotional question? How do I do this? Doesn't judge you as a person. It questions the process. It questions the system. It questions the strategy. It's objective. How do I do this is a strategy question. Why am I doing this is a motivation question. I want to stay out of motivation and get into strategy because what we want to do is change how we think. Is this starting to make sense? The other thing I'm going to suggest, geez, Donnie, it's Monday morning and I'm losing my voice, man. This is not good for a coach, you know what I mean? The other thing I want to suggest to you is this. Just for a moment, in your own heads right now, ask yourself that question. How do I do that? And you'll find, most likely, there's a moment of confusion. There's a moment of, what? Huh? Because it's a weird question, right? I wrote this thing several years ago. I still ask this question. I still get that momentary pause of, huh? And the confusion is what we're looking for, okay? I want there to be confusion at this point because confusion is always going to come before observation. I mean, understanding, okay? How do I do this? How do I do that? Not why questions. How questions the process? How stimulates curiosity? And when we're in curiosity, can we agree we're more apt to find an answer? So it's a different way of talking to yourself. It's a very different question. But if you think about this, this takes a second or two at the most. Huh, how do I do that? Huh, how do I do this? Whoa, how do I do this? And the only purpose of those two steps of POET is to slam on the brakes on your slide down into the pits. Bring awareness, cause confusion. Is that making sense? That's the purpose of the P and the O, is to stop the slide, create confusion. Momentary lapse of understanding. A moment of confusion is all we're looking for, because that's the pause. So now we can put something different in. You've heard it in bold, you've heard it in maps, and heard it in KW all the time. We can't control our first thought, but we can control the second one. Okay? Now, to shift from one thought to another, we have to go through neutral. And confusion puts us in neutral. It puts the little brakes on the slide of our emotions and our understanding, so that now we can get control of the next thing that we're going to think about. That is the sole purpose of the P and the O. How do I do this? Moment of confusion. Confusion always comes before understanding. With me so far?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on the how do I do this? This is the hardest part, by the way. That's the tough part, because it's a weird question. We're not used to asking it. Everybody good?
Good, yep.
All right. That's the P and the O. Let's do the E. The E is where it gets interesting. E is examine and engage. Examine and engage. Let me go back to what most people do. Most people are asking questions that are based in the past and based on problems. Why is this always happening to me? I need this like I need a hole in the head. That's real positive, right? When is this going to stop? When am I going to learn? Negative problem-based questions based in the past. What I'm suggesting here is, instead of asking your subconscious mind questions like that, you ask your subconscious mind positive questions that are resource-based and based in the future. Resource-based, future-based questions. What can I learn from this that'll make me a better person? All right, the deal's going south. You start to get that feeling inside. Whoa, how do I do that? What can I learn from this so that next time I can handle it better? Whoa, how do I do that? What's the lesson I'm missing here so that when I look back on it, I can laugh? Hold on, how do I do that? What can I get from this so that in the future I can avoid it altogether? Positive, resource-based, future-based questions is a very, very different way of talking to yourself. Now, let me see if I can connect the dots a little bit. Whatever question you ask of your mind, your brain is going to go out and search the answer. So if you say to yourself, why is this happening to me again? There's a little librarian in your brain that's going to basically say, you want to know why? I'll tell you why. I'm going to go through the database of all your previous experiences from the moment you popped out of the womb till now, and I'm going to link them all together, and now you'll know why. Have you found that the feeling that you have at that moment is very similar to feelings that you've had with other past experiences? Because all your experiences are linked neurologically and chemically. How many of you have known somebody who's gotten really, really good at being angry? Like 10 years ago, not so much, but today they lose their temper instantly. Or playing the guilt game, or sad. Because they've been asking themselves these questions of, why is this always happening to me? You want to know why? I'll tell you. You got all this old data, and it's taking the new experiences and it's linking that to that old data. So that neurological network becomes more dominant. That reticular activating system in that person is now trained unconsciously to find more and more shit that is going to cause them to feel that same feeling, because that becomes the dominant neural net. Is that making sense? So let's change the question. Instead of going back over negatives, let's ask the little brain librarian to say, what can I learn from this that'll make me a better person? Oh, you want to know that? Let me go back over the entire database of your experience and get lessons. And link those lessons together. Because this is how you did it in the past. This is how you got through it before. This is what you learned last time it happened, the last 20 times it happened. Maybe you forgot, but your unconscious mind didn't. Let me link all those together. So now you have a reticular activating system that's looking more for opportunities and lessons than problems. That's the purpose of the questioning. And folks, I got to tell you, most people do not talk to themselves this way. Most people beat the crap out of themselves when they're talking to themselves. We talk nicer to other people than we do to ourselves. Would you agree? The stuff we say to ourselves is brutal. It's like, why? I always like this first one. If it's something that's important, if it's something that, whoops, keep on doing that, don't I? If it's something that's important, if it's a big event, what can I learn from this that'll make me a better person? What a great question. Think about that. Wouldn't you rather talk to yourself this way? Right? Okay. So it doesn't really matter what the question is right now, as long as it's resource oriented and future based. The only part of this whole process where the words really matter is the O part. How do I do this? How do I do that? Just to cause the confusion. With me so far?
Yes.
We good? All right. Now, here's the hardest part of the whole deal. Hardest part of the whole process, right here. Let it go. Let it go. When you ask yourself that question, what can I learn from this so next time it happens, I can do it better? Let it go. Don't sit there in the moment, and wait for the answer to come, because chances are you might not, but chances are you're not going to get it, because your unconscious mind works at a whole different timetable, works on a whole different level than your conscious mind does. Okay. Now let me give you the evidence procedure for why it's important to let this go. And I'm not even going to ask you guys. I'm going to state this as fact, because I know for fact, if you've been on the planet long enough, this has happened to you. You have been in a conversation with somebody, one-on-one, where you forgot something. You forgot the name of a person, an event, a place, a thing, something. You forgot something. Kind of show of hands. Have you ever been in a situation where you converse and you know you forgot something? Now, here's the cool part. To know that you forgot is to know that you know. You couldn't have, if you know that you forgot it, you know that you know it, right? Otherwise, you couldn't have forgotten it if you never knew it in the first place. None of you ever knew how to do, a heart transplant. You never learned, right? But you might have forgotten where you put your keys. So if you know that you forgot, you know that you know it. Now, what happens when you're in that conversation with somebody? The harder you try to remember this thing that you're trying to remember, the harder you try to remember it, what happens to the memory?
Just keeps getting further away.
Right? Have you noticed that? You're working and working and working, trying to find it. Go back to the iceberg picture. The conscious mind is working, but the answer's down here somewhere. The harder you try to remember it, the further away it gets. And then you probably say something to yourself like, oh, it'll come to me. And maybe you turn and you have another conversation, or a few minutes later or moments later, the moment you stop thinking about it, what happens? Oftentimes, boom, there it is. Where did it come from? Didn't come from your consciousness, did it? It came from the subconscious. It came from the unconscious part of your mind, where all your data and all your memories are stored. So your conscious mind can put the brakes on this thing, and you end up in frustration because you're waiting and waiting and waiting for the answer. So just like any other time you let it go, do the same thing now. Just let it go. I think the example that I put in the book, I was in a conversation, I was in a networking meeting years ago. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I don't know why, but we were coming up, we were trying to remember the breed of the dog. I know it's a weird conversation. The breed of the dog on the TV show Frasier. And I'm talking with Mike Leeds, and the two of us, we're both frustrated because we can't get it. And I just said to myself, go get it. I just tell my mind, go get it. And ended the conversation basically with Mike, turned around, talked to somebody else. I was talking to the second guy for maybe 30 seconds. And I said, excuse me, hold on for a second. Turned around, tapped Mike on the shoulder, and just said, Jack Russell Terrier. And then, how many of you have been in a situation like that, right? You let it go. You don't even think about it. Boom, up comes the answer. So do the same thing here, folks. When you go, how do I do that? What can I learn from this so the next time I can handle it better? Let it go. Because if you're spending your present moment now waiting for the answer, you're actually looking at an event that just happened. You're focused on the past. So you're basically telling your mind you want future-based resource questions, but you're focused on the past. Just let it go. Let your brain do the work, and it'll come to you. Sometimes you'll get an aha, and it'll come to you very, very clearly. You go, oh, that's what I missed. That's what I can use. Most of the time, it's really, really subtle. You might not even get anything that you can put into words. And the next time an event like that comes along, you just find yourself handling it differently or feeling different about it. trust that subconscious part of your mind. That's where all the answers are. Okay, so let it go. We all good with that? That's the hardest part. That's the sub part of E. I didn't put it in there because P.O.E.T, I mean, that got really messy, so it's just part of it. Okay, so far?
Yeah.
Cool. Last step. Thank yourself for catching it. Be grateful you caught it. Originally, the last step was G for gratitude. But P.O.E.G made no sense. P.O.E.G. I mean, you know, the P, the O, and E were really obvious when this happened to me. So I just had to come up with a different word. Be grateful that you caught it. That's all. Huh, glad I caught it. Move on. Go about the rest of your day. Pause, observe, examine, engage, let it go. Thank yourself. If this takes more than 15 or 30 seconds, you're overthinking it. This should be something that happens in a matter of seconds. You're not necessarily looking for the answer. You're training your reticular activating system to find resources. You're training your RAS to focus on opportunity and resources in the future base as opposed to focusing on the past. You are consciously retraining a subconscious part of your brain. If you really want to get weird about this, you're consciously affecting the neurons that are connecting in your brain. That's the fun part. Consciously affecting the neurons that are connecting in your brain. Now, this is not something that's going to happen instantly because the old way of thinking is much more deeply rooted in your brain. But the cool thing is there's this process called neuroplasticity. I like saying it because it makes me sound smart. Neuroplasticity basically says neurons that fire together wire together. Okay. And this is there's evidence of this under electron microscopes. You can actually see these two neurons that are like this, and they excrete this thing called neural growth factor, where they'll actually reach across and connect to each other. So this concept of a neural network is real. It's not foo-foo, it's real. These are actual neural connections that happen in your brain. The good news is that old patterns that are not used also start to disconnect, so your brain can make new neural connections. And the more conscious awareness that you have of this, the more dominant that way of thinking becomes. So again, just one more way. This is one more way of training your brain. So here's what happens, bottom line. Instead of sliding all the way down into the pits, the old pattern, you start to catch the slide a little bit faster. When you first start out, you might get all the way down here before you see it. Then with a little bit of practice, you're catching it here, then you're catching it here, then you're catching it faster. You probably won't back up to the same feeling that you had when you started, but you end up higher in less time. That's the idea, okay? So this is a system that is, I'm telling you, it absolutely positively works. Okay, so far? So let me stop here. That's the negative aspect. I'm going to get into third-party aspect real quick, and then I'll show you how to make it strong in muscle memory. Any questions on the process?
Nope.
Cool. All right. How many of you have witnessed somebody doing something so freaking stupid, you sit back and you say, what the hell are they thinking? It's okay. You can raise your hands. Yeah, we all have, right? Okay. What is wrong with this person? You get yourself into judgment sometimes. I mean, in today's politically charged environment, it's pretty easy regardless of which side of the aisle you're on. Would you agree? Right? There's a lot of crap that's flying around in our world today. So when we start asking, what are you thinking? What's wrong with you questions? Why are they doing that? Isn't that kind of judgmental? So here's this person doing an activity over here. You're standing back here going, what the hell? They are completely unaware of you, but your attitude is being affected because of what they're doing and the way you're thinking. Are you at cause or are you at effect? You with me? They don't even know you exist, but you're getting all riled up. That's a waste of energy, big time. And it'll suck you down because you're training your RAS to find more criticism. So rather than doing that, sit back and just ask yourself, how does she do that? How does he do that? And that's it. You don't even have to run the rest of the pattern. Just be curious about the behavior and judge and watch the behavior instead of judging the person. Right? The picture that's on here was perfect when I found it, because I had a client who had, I think her daughter was probably 15 years old, 13 to 15, something like that. And if you have 13 to 15-year-old girls, you'll relate to this story. Single mom. The mom was my client, and the daughter would come home every day and from school and poke mama bear, right? Looking, now the child psychologist would tell us she's looking for attention, but the daughter would come home and just push mom's buttons. She'd say something, mom would respond, kid would say something, bump, 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 every day, bump, 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 like this, every day, escalating. So she's asking me, can I work with the daughter? Do we need counseling? Does she need drugs? What? And I thought, just try this for a little while and let's see what happens. All I want you to do, mom, is sit back when she comes in and she does that. Put yourself in a state of total curiosity and just look at her and think to yourself, huh, how does she do that? And just be curious and don't even respond. Zero response, just total curiosity, which, by the way, is not easy to do when somebody close to you knows what buttons to push. This was hard to do. Would you agree? I mean, it's easy to do with strangers, hard to do with a loved one. But mom would just sit back and go, how does she do that? So, and what mom told me was the first couple of days when the kid came home, the kid would go, rah, 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 and attack. Mom would go, huh, how does she do that? The kid would look confused and come at a different angle. Rah, rah, rah. Mom would do the same thing. And the kid would walk out, but she'd take her angry monkey with her. Her monkey, her zoo, and she'd go to a room, slam her room, and that was that. Slam her door, and that was that. Okay? And it happened over the course of a week where the kid would come home, mom wouldn't respond, and then suddenly, like Gary Keller writes, gradually then suddenly, the kid came home and had a civil conversation with her mom. No counseling, no drugs, nobody was messed up. It's just, here's a kid that's looking for attention, and mom was feeding her RAS with this argument. The argument, at least, is attention. All my attention is focused, all the attention is focused on me. So mom changed the pattern, interrupted the pattern. The other person had to change their behavior. And they had civil conversations, and everything became fine, just from this. I think there's a bold law about that. Change, how does it go? Change the way you look at things. What's that? Change the way you look at things. Come on. Come on, bold starts tomorrow, kids. Come on. And nobody?
Guys, help me out.
Change the way you look at things, and
Things will change.
yes, the things you look at change. All right. There you go. Donnie, buy her lunch. All right. So here's how you make poet strong, okay? So all so far we've been talking about is negatives. Now let's have a little bit of fun. Here's how you make it strong. I'm a dog guy, okay? So if I can get a smile or a kiss from a puppy, my day gets better. Let's say you're going through your day and you're operating on a scale of 1 to 10, you're operating at a 7.8, okay? It's a good day, you're feeling good. How many times have you had something where you just get a little bump in attitude, right? Maybe you pulled into Starbucks and the person in front of you paid for your coffee. Maybe you got a smile and a wave from a little kid in a car when they were driving past you. Maybe it's just a perfect sunny day, perfect temperature, sunshine, you got a great cup of coffee and an easy morning. Doesn't matter. You have something that happens during the course of that day and your attitude goes from a 7.8 to like an 8.1. It's not major, but it's a little bump. Has it happened to you? Right? All the time. Wouldn't it be nice to train your RAS to find more of these? Can we agree if you're happy and you're in gratitude and you're feeling really, really good, that's a good place to be. So you run the same pattern. You find yourself getting a little bump and you go, huh, how do I do that? What can I get from this so I can find more moments just like it? Man, I'm glad I caught it. Same pattern, same series of questions. Huh, awareness, observe, what can I get from this? How do I do this? What can I learn from this so that I can see more of them? What can I gain from this moment so I can experience more? What can I learn from this so I can share with others and maybe they get the same benefit? What did I catch in this moment so that I can make sure I catch it again in the future? Resource, future-based. Same pattern so that when you need it, the questions will just fly right out. In the book, there's a story about a little girl in a Starbucks. And I was sitting inside a Starbucks years ago. And this particular store had the big windows, you know, that go all the way down to the floor, right? Now, everybody in the place was on this. They're like this. They're focused in on their laptops and their computers and stuff. There was a group of people sitting outside. And there was a little girl and a dog. And the dog was laying on its side. I think it was a golden too, if I remember right. And the dog was laying on its side. And the little girl walks over, and she had a little dress on, and she goes over and she hugs on the dog. You know what I mean? Right? And the dog is startled a little bit, looks up real fast, realizes who it is, puts his head back down, and then the tail starts going like this. And the little girl is just hugging on the dog, going up and down with its breath. And I'm like, oh my God, what a Kodak moment. This is fabulous. And I looked around, and everybody was on this. And everybody out at the table, the parents of this kid didn't even see it because they were all doing other stuff. And I caught it. And I started thinking, wonder why I caught it. Maybe it's because my RAS is tuned into this stuff. So here's a totally innocent moment that probably lasted a minute and a half. And I got a charge out of it that 10 years later, when I think about it, I still feel the same feeling. Because I've trained my brain to look for it. Is that making sense to you? So the cool thing is, train your brain with these questions so you can find more of what you want. And then when you need it, when you start going down, the pattern is there. The rhythm is there. The questions are there. It becomes muscle memory. Okay. And with that, that's about all I got. All right? So run it on the little things. So there's the big question for you. Knowing what you know now, what would happen if you practice this to the point where it's reflex? What would happen if you're no longer judging and being tough on yourself? Could you teach this to other people? Because it really is simple. Right? Questions? Comments? Snide remarks.
Too simple.
What was that?
It's too simple.
Yes, it is. And I've had to apologize for the simplicity. Have you noticed that most of the solutions in this world are simple, but they're not easy?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Implementation is the hard part.
Right. It's the implementation. Yeah. And it is simple, guys. It really is. It's you know, we talk an awful lot about changing your thinking, and there's people that get up on stage and they sell books on this is what you got to do, and there's not a whole lot of people that actually give you the steps, you know. And again, this thing hit me years ago, and it came to me from someplace bigger than me. I'm not going to get all woo woo, but it came to me someplace bigger, and it shook me up enough. I had to cancel my appointments. I went. My original notes, I think I told Danya, I found this little Japanese fast food place. My original notes have teriyaki stains all over them because I took a notepad in and I got some food and I'm sitting there thinking, what the heck just happened to me? You know, and I was just trying to reverse engineer it. And it boiled down to just those 4 steps. And it's just been refined a little bit over time. So yeah, it's simple, and yeah, it ain't easy. And when you get it, it becomes automatic. Yeah.
For sure. Like, I mean, this is the stuff we've been talking about for the last few months along these lines. And I mean, in my life, I've been implementing it. We've talked about that, and it absolutely works. I mean, it's simple, but the hardest part is implementing it, and it 100% works. I've done life-changing things, and Jen will tell you the same thing in the last 3, 4, however long we've been talking to each other, just 3 or 4 months or so, and just this stuff, I'm high on it, to be honest. It works. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, just do it. Okay. So
Look at it better now too, and less judgy. that whole looking at the behavior thing, I mean, it's all simple stuff, but if you let it work, it changes the way your brain works.
It seems like a lot of this stuff, people make it too complicated. And I found in the world of NLP, a lot of people make it really, really complicated. And I'm amused by that, because I think what happens a lot of times is by making it complicated, it feeds, like if I made this really complicated, it feeds my ego. Oh, George, you're so smart. No, I'm not. I have this ability to take complex crap and simplify it and say, look, here it is. Here's the steps, Pause. How do I do that? Observe. What can I learn from this? Engage and examine it. Glad I caught it. It works, and it's lots of clients that have told me that. Donnie, does that sign behind you actually say get shit done? I can't see I just see the SHI, but yeah, I can actually put the last letter. Yeah, that's funny. That's why I like you, man. Cheers.
That's all the way up in the office everywhere.
Get shit done. You got a picture of what's his name? Larry the Cable Guy in there too. Get her done.
He'll be coming.
All right. Is there any other? I got a couple minutes here. Is there any other questions? Anything I can help you guys with?
I know a lot of the stuff, if they don't have questions, they'll come up, because I'm always thinking when this stuff happens. And even when we talk, I don't always have questions.
Yeah.
But the next time that tends to be when the questions come up. So
okay.
If they require me with stuff, I'll be bringing it up with you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. If we can certainly take part of our call, to field the questions from your team. So I'll give you the feedback for it, guys. It really is simple. I mean, this part of me says maybe it should be more complicated, but the reality is it's not. Yeah. It's the implementation. I will tell you this though, the experience is the hardest part of the whole deal is letting it go. Asking the question, starting to think in different term of resource and future-based questions. What can I learn from this type of questions? That's relatively easy. It's a conscious exercise. The emotional attachment to, I gotta have the answer right now. That's the hard part, So letting it go is the easiest way to do it. And the other thing to think about too, you've all done this. Think back to high school, right? I mean, I remember having like physics questions or something, and I'd be sitting there looking at it, and it's like, or going, I think we covered this in class, but I got no frigging idea, right? And then the book is open, and you pass out, and you wake up the next morning, and you look at it, and then what? Oh, there it is. Because all night long, your brain's been working on it. Same stuff. It's the Jack Russell Terrier. Just let it go. Let your mind make the connections, because that's what's actually going to get that reticular activating system working for you. Yep. We good?
I recorded this as well, so we're going to put it on our team channel so we can
Beautiful.
Watch it again too. So thanks for that, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Donnie. My pleasure. All right. Are we good? Anything else?
We're good.
Last chance. All right.
Hey, we got one thing for you.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, George.
There it is. No wimpy clapping.
Oh.
All right.
Told you we're starting the clapping. So.
Cool. I feel better. I'm going to take the rest of the day off now. This is all good. Yeah.
Thank you.
I got my applause fixed. thank you guys. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Donnie. I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome, George. Thank you. Have a good day. See ya.
My pleasure. See ya.